Hello and welcome back to All for United post-match reaction show. You'll notice it's me instead of Mark, and that's the reason we won, and that's the only reason we won. So make sure next time you see anything from Mark, let him know that he's never doing a reaction show again. And I'm clearly magic. But yeah, a massive 3-2 win over Arsenal. Obviously not the strongest Arsenal side ever, but not the strongest United side either. So a big win. It pushes us up to 6th place, I think. Goals from Ronaldo and Fernandes sealing the deal for us. I've got a big panel of guests full of well, I say experts. You know, we'll let you be the judge of that. But we've got a load of people waiting to give their opinions on the game. Let us know your thoughts in the comments as well. But yeah, I'll introduce them straight after this.
Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from Passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I hope you're all well. Obviously, the good result against the old enemy never does anything to dampen moods, so it's always a positive. I'll get to the comments first before we head into it. So happy for Cal and Mark. What a game to be in the stands for. If Mark can go to every game instead of hosting the reactions, that would be ideal for us because we might actually mount a title charge. We've got glory Man United. No better time to say that than right now. What did I miss? An incredible intro. That's all about all. I'll come to you first, Nat. 3-2 home win against Arsenal. Not the prettiest of wins, but a fantastic game nonetheless.
Yeah, I think obviously, Carrick at the wheel. Not saying he should obviously run it, but it's looking good for Ralph coming in. They needed that bounce, whether we like it or not. But they always have that sort of bounce when a manager leaves, and Carrick caretaker came in. He's done all right. He's a good guy. And I'm excited now for Ralph because I think them players are playing. They're looking like they got a point to prove. A lot of them, which they do. So for me, I'm happy with the 3 points. Ronaldo 2 goals. My favourite is always Ronaldo. But and it looked like he sort of proved a point. I can play in this team. I can play up top. I will run. I will chase. Maybe not all the time, but he's 36. So obviously, you're not going to see it all the time, but I'm happy. You can't not be happy after beating Arsenal, can you?
Impossible not to be happy. Yeah, completely agree. I'll come to you then, Marcus. Obviously, not probably the best performance against Chelsea, but I thought it was much improved today. Do you think today's performance is an example that this team is starting to turn a corner?
I wouldn't go as far as saying turning a corner, but you can definitely see there was a difference in the way we played. The cynic in me believes it's because we went 1-0 down and we had to chase the game, but maybe we would have played like that regardless. Who knows? I was really happy. I was really happy with the way we played because when the game opened up, I thought to myself, wow, this is the United I want to see. Yes, it's not perfect. Of course, there's things that could be improved, but I want to see us play football. I don't want to see us with 10 men behind the ball, low block, kind of leaving it till the last minute. And even though we did technically leave it till the last minute because it was 2-2 and then 3-2, we scored goals. We looked like a team that actually wanted to take the initiative, wanted to be aggressive, wanted to actually play football and not just sit back and try hit Arsenal on the break, which is great. And I thought Arsenal, fair play to them because they're a team in form at the moment. A lot of players in their team, I think Manchester United fans didn't quite respect. I think Tommy Else has been great for them. Emil Smith-Rowe's been a key player for them. Saka's had moments where he's caused teams trouble. So it could have easily been a bad evening tonight. And I'm glad it wasn't. The players stepped up big time because I think we all know that Carrick, I think, he's in a weird place at the moment because he knows that he's going into a new transition with a new manager. He won't have as much control as he did under Oli, you'd like to think. And tonight was very much about him just getting the result. And I'm glad we got the result. So hard not to be happy.
Hard not to be happy. I think everyone's going to say the same thing. I'll bring up Brown Knight's comment. Gutted for Carrick. 3 games played, 6 goals scored, 3 goals conceded, unbeaten, deserved more time. Sounds a little bit like the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer situation, and we all know how that turned out. But yeah, fair enough. I'll bring Waz in as well. It's just waiting. Nice to have you on, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, right.
I suppose since you're next in line in the queue, I'll come to you next. I've completely forgot what question I was going to ask. Yeah, are we set up for Ralph Rangnick now? Because I think there was a decent bit of pressing in that game, especially when we needed to. The players showed they can do it. So do you think that this transition over to Rangnick can be a smooth one?
Yeah, I think there's aspects to our game which obviously Ralph Rangnick will look forward to in terms of obviously stamping his own authority on the game, and there's certain personnel that he'd like that maybe under Ollie, if they continued, it may not have worked out. But the likes of Fred, if Rangnick does play a 4-3-3 and Fred's left over midfield three and he's playing as a high pressing number 8, Ralph Rangnick may like something like that. We are short of central midfielders, so it is a bit difficult in that area, especially with Matic as well being injured and so on. So yeah, I do think there's a lot to look forward to, and I'm glad Ralph is here, to be honest.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of managers, I don't know if anyone else has seen, it's pretty much breaking news that Michael Carrick is not only stepping down as head coach to make way for Ralph Rangnick, but he's also going to leave Manchester United, apparently.
Yes.
He's leaving the club as a whole, so he won't be involved in the coaching staff now. I suppose we'll get instant reaction on this, Hammer. Obviously, there's been the coaching staff have come under a lot of fire. It's been the last year or so. Do you think, obviously, full credit for the job he's done as interim? He couldn't have done any better, really. But do you think this was needed for him to go as well?
Well, I think, something that I heard people talking about before everything got finalized with Ralph is he'd be looking at the back room. So when I hear that, now I'm wondering if it's just like a mutual thing or just an easing into Ralph as becoming a manager, because I think we have heard that he's bringing in, a few people in the back room from his staff that he would like and things like that. So I don't know if it was necessary, but I have a feeling that, not necessarily Ralph was, like, fuck off, sorry, like told him to piss off or whatever, but, maybe he just has people coming in that he's going to be in that position that Carrick was in. You know what I mean? So I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it's something that needed to happen. Whether he left, I think that the way it's being portrayed is he's leaving on his own terms. But United aren't saying that they're getting rid of him. But I think everyone knew that sort of needed to happen. Are you in the same boat, John? Obviously not. He's a club legend. He's done nothing wrong as a manager. But was it time for him to move on as well?
Actually, my initial reaction from the gut was sad. Actually, disappointed. That was how I was feeling inside as you said that. When you said this, breaking news about someone being fired, I thought it was someone elsewhere in the Premier League, actually. So, yeah, that's just my immediate feeling. No doubt it's increased by what's happened in the last sort of 10 days with the results at Villarreal and then obviously the 2 Premier League matches since then. So, yeah, it's another element of sadness to what's been a sorry couple of weeks, really, or you could say much longer in terms of the results. But yeah, that's my feeling, and it looks like Natalie feels the same. And yeah, just sad. Yeah, I'm a little surprised maybe, but I guess maybe if I thought about it and the whole mechanism of Rangnick coming in, I mean, why is it Carrick that's gone and not Phelan and not Fletcher? And I know Fletcher's quite a new addition to the team in many respects, but I guess Carrick has just given an interview after the game. Is that what's happened?
No. So United have released a club statement on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting timing, but weird. That's weird. But maybe. I mean, listen, it's very easy to judge in the immediate moment, but yeah, just sad really, because it's been a not bad 10 days. He's going with obviously Solskjaer, and but I would have to. Is Mike Phelan included in that statement? I mean, that's also sad if he's gone. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but very little does with Man United in the last 10 years, really. So yeah, that's my initial reaction to the news about Carrick. Just sadness, really.
I'm the same. For me, yeah, people might say it was him and Ollie and all this kind of rubbish. Yeah, it was. And I think he's done quite well. I think, it would have been nice to see him progress and maybe learn under Ranieri, but I think potentially, like you said, James, it sounds like he's sort of taken that step. I think basically, a lot of people have said like they should all go. He probably thought yes, and he probably now will think, I've done a good little cameo myself. I've shown myself. Maybe he might think it's time for me to step on my own 2 feet, go out there. He's not never welcome back, kind of thing. So he could go out there, take a Norwich or someone of that level, and they could do really well, like how Steven Gerrard's done. That's probably how he's looking at it, and it is sad I'm with John, but yeah, he's probably thinking, it's my time, let me step on my own 2 feet. They've given me this great platform. I've taken, myself as manager, we did well. I'm sort of, my instant reaction is sad because I was thinking he could improve, he could learn under Ranieri, but, obviously, whilst bringing in his own staff, I don't think he was until forced out, but, it is what it is. And then hopefully, like I said, he'll step on his own 2 feet and get his own pathway.
Carrick has done more for his CV than Giggsy did in his 4 games, put it that way.
Defo.
Just real quick, also, I just scanned the little club statement, and it seems like he decided to step down and go.
I'm not sad he's left, to be honest. I know you two are, but I'm not sad he's left. He's had opportunities under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's been there at the beginning from Ole. He's been there with Jose. He's been there from Ole at the beginning. He's had his opportunities. He is a first-team coach under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Solskjaer gave him loyalty. The right decision was him to move on.
I'll just say that's just the initial feeling I had. That feeling of, okay, some news is happening, and then it's like, I just felt sad. I mean, I felt sad watching the Ollie interview a couple of weeks ago. I knew it was time. I think it was time for him to go the minute we lost to Liverpool in that embarrassing manner. But it doesn't mean I don't feel sad about Ollie's demise. And yeah, my initial reaction is sadness regarding Carrick.
Well, back to the game then. Anyway, obviously a bit of weird timing, as we said, to release a statement, especially after such a good win. But I suppose he's leaving on a high. Marcus, I suppose it seems a bit irrelevant now, but the big moment of the game was probably Arsenal's first goal. Obviously, Smith Rowe tapped it into an open net with De Gea down. Now, by the letter of the law, the goal should stand. But what did you make of the whole scenario?
Yeah, I saw a lot of people trying to blame De Gea because he went down too easily. And I just thought, man, what are you on about? Have you even played football? Because where he got struck by Fred, that's extremely painful. You cannot expect a person to just stay up. Everybody reacts to pain differently. Some players are able to, withdraw their emotions and just stay in the moment. But I think De Gea had every right to go down because that's pretty painful. Plus, on top of that, he didn't know who really did it because he wasn't looking down. So it could have been another player. And when it's another player, you go down so that you can get the free kick. Everybody knows this, right? Football is about theatrics now. So I don't blame De Gea at all. In fact, I would say in order, I would start by blaming Fred, obviously, because he caused the injury. Then I would blame the referee for taking too long to blow the whistle. And I don't think Emil Smith-Rowe did anything wrong. I don't think Arsenal did anything wrong. I think they fully deserve that goal. And that's what I make of it, man. It's an unfortunate way to concede. But I think it was a blessing in disguise because the game opened up after that. Like, I genuinely think if they didn't score first, we would have been sat there just defending for the first 25 minutes. And I'm happy they scored because it allowed us to actually get back into the game. It forced us to play football, as it always does when we go 1-0 down.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think we started pretty slowly. Obviously, Arsenal with a better team. I'll come to you. Going on from the goal then, obviously, there's nothing we can do about it really, but what did you make of the resurgence from United? Because I thought straight after the goal, they really started turning it on, got a deserved goal just before half-time. How good was that for you to see? Because it's a fight that we've not really seen from United much this season, is it?
Yeah, I think under Carrick, there's been a little new lease of life. I feel like the players ultimately, deep down, they know that Ole wasn't good enough because even post-match, after certain defeats, they'd say something's got to change. It's all good with all the PR posts after Ole leaves, but deep down, they were asking for Ole to leave because there was subliminals in their messages, liking posts on Instagram. It was there. But yeah, the reaction today anyway, after we did concede, I thought it was a good reaction. We stepped up under the 10-yard, we start pressing, like some further putting challenges in, and then I was a bit disappointed in Rashford's display. I felt he didn't show enough energy off the ball at all, and on the ball he wasn't great either. Yeah, so I think the timely equaliser, was it just before half-time? Yes, I think that was good for us.
Certainly was. Well, it's interesting you mentioned Rashford there. I'll come to you, Hammer, on this. I really wasn't impressed with Rashford today. I think he was. I hate to put a dampener on the win, but I was really unimpressed with, especially with the standards that we know he can set. Now, Hammer, what did you make of his game, and has the fact that he's not really performed this season very much, is that a worry to you?
Well, so yeah, first on the game, I agree. I don't think he had a great game. I think like Wes said, off the ball, he wasn't really, he wasn't pressing, he wasn't running much. He wasn't. I mean, he tried. I did see him try a few times, but he wasn't making those runs in behind like we always see him do. And then it came back again, and I think some of you guys maybe saw in the group chat for the channel, like his decision making again. It's dropping off again, and there were a few times today where he should have played it to somebody either to the left or right of him, and again he tried to take on like two players and got crowded out, and the ball went away. Is it worrying? Yes and no. I think to be honest, one of the things I wanted to point I was thinking about during the game, especially in that second half, as we started getting more into the game and getting better, is that how everybody talks about that new manager bounce. I think it's coming up on the side already, because I have a feeling they were playing and putting in certain efforts, not the whole team, but as overall, as how we got the win. And like Boss said, in terms of the pressing getting better, because Ralph was in the crowd and everybody knew he was there and everybody knew he was watching. So for Rashford, and yeah, Brown Knight, it is hammer time. But for Rashford, I'm not worried for two reasons. One, I think he'll get back into what we all expect from him eventually, especially with Ralph, because I think Ralph's going to be on him about that decision making, about that type of stuff. And then also, we haven't really been seeing much of Greenwood. And if it comes to the point where Rashford needs to be maybe given a little break, I wouldn't really be that upset with Greenwood coming on. So, those two reasons why I'm not too worried.
Fair enough. Well, we'll get to a positive in my mind. Now, I want to get your thoughts on it. Obviously, we did concede 2 today, but I think both goals were out of our hands for different reasons. Obviously, the first goal was very unfortunate. The second goal was genuine quality build-up play by Arsenal. There's not many teams that probably could have stopped that. What did you make of our defence today? Because, it's been horrendous all season, but I think they dealt with the pressure fairly well.
Yeah and no. That's what I'd say. Yeah and no. I think I just want to touch on a few points that speech has been made about like now they're playing and all this, and I think that's what annoys a lot of fans when you see them playing after a manager goes. And I feel like Ralph is potentially going to come in now and shake it up, and like you say, if you're not playing well, you drop. That's it. Because I think they've had it easy. A lot of these players, like you're saying about even Maguire coming back in. He's not played the best, and he just comes back in. And I know he's the captain. I think I like the bit of shithousery at the end, tying his shoelace. But other than that, I think he can be doing a lot better. A lot of players can be doing a lot better, and I think it's I'm fed up with just them. Oh, all right, we stopped playing now, and now we want to play. Now we got a new manager, and we didn't want Ole, but we want this one. It's like who are they to decide who they want? But that's my little rant on that thing. Yeah, and no about the goals. I think it was just silly. I think it's like individual errors, and you can cut them out. And I think once we cut them out, we'll be doing a lot better. The Fred stepping on the toe, and then this, and then him going down. It's just a bit too much. Come on, get yourself in the game. That's just what I think. But I think we could have pressed, closed them down. There's too much space for that second one. It was well worked. There's too much space. I think give a team like that space, yeah, you're gonna concede. But I do like the way they fought back and like got the goals. Ronaldo's one was well worked as well. But I think there's a lot of space in that. But overall, it's like better. We're seeing better defensively. Yes, they saw it out towards the end, but as well at the same time, I am happy to look at a like more like when they're more together, when they're playing like a team a bit more, if you get what I mean, rather than like just individuals running around trying to chase them. I think Ralph hopefully will bring that drill it into them a bit more. This is how you defend together. This is how you attack together as a team, rather than just guys moving about. But yeah, like to hear everyone else.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, John, what do you think on that then? If Nat wants to get other people's opinions.
You're on mute.
There we go. I'm on mute, and now I'm not. Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, I'd like to sort of address the question to some extent, which is, our defending has been horrendous this season. I don't think it left a lot to be desired. Maybe individually it was okay tonight, but collectively, and the second goal, I would still say, this is kind of a role of a holding midfielder, if you like, to guard that kind of cutback, to guard that sort of position. If you've got speedy, quick, alert defensive midfielders, I still think Fred and to a lesser extent McTominay were a bit lax on that second goal. I still think set pieces. Oh my God. Every time we concede a corner, I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen here? And in fact, although it was kind of a second phase, the first goal actually did kind of come from a set piece, as has done so many. I mean, there were so many second phases. Everton, I remember early on in the season when a goal occurred. Actually, I think it was also, no, it wasn't the one that was disallowed, but it's just horrendous. I mean, we employed this set piece coach who's actually, I didn't think we could get any worse than our set piece defending last year, but this is actually even worse. And I think, we talk about, the different ways of Ranić coming in, obviously, in the wake of obviously Klopp and Guardiola and several other, but even Man City and Liverpool defend set pieces a million times better than us. Bloody hell, Ozzy Ardele's Spurs in the mid-90s defended set pieces better than we do. That's how bad we are. I think we're the worst team in the league at defending set pieces. And it drives me nuts. I think every single game we play, whether we win, lose, or draw, I'm on Twitter 2 or 3 times going, set pieces. Because even if we don't concede, we look like we're going to concede. That's damning. That's damning. And whoever employed that set piece coach, whether it be Ollie or someone else, oh my goodness. Anyway, that's my defense analysis of tonight.
It's fair enough. I think a lot of people would agree with you as well. There's a lot of nods in agreement just there. But Marcus, we'll move away from the defence then to the midfield. Obviously, Fred looking to cap off a good performance against Chelsea with another one against Arsenal now. Obviously, Fred has his limitations. We saw them today. But what did you make of his performance? Because I thought he had another good game in that midfield.
Yeah, I saw a few people saying Fred had a bad game, and it really confused me. But then as the more and more I thought about it, I was like, oh, I think the reason why people think Fred had a bad game is because he was actually trying to make forward passes. And when that happens, you're going to lose the ball a lot. And I think it's more noticeable with Fred because he was doing more, whereas I hate to scapegoat McTominay, but I don't think he was as effective. I think we've seen so many times over the last few weeks that McTominay would rather go for a back pass or a sideways pass, so he never really gets caught out of possession. Fred, it happens a lot, and that's because he's trying to make things happen, which I don't think is a bad thing, by the way. If you're losing the ball trying to make things happen, that's okay. I'm happy that you're at least trying to do something as opposed to going for the safe pass. And so for me, Fred was great today, man. Yeah, I'm enjoying Fred. I used to say that Fred and McTominay were as bad as each other, but day by day, my mind is starting to change. I'm starting to believe in the Fred hype because, I don't know, something about him, I don't know if it's his low center of gravity, the way he moves about the pitch, but I like his tenacity, and I'm usually a person who doesn't like things like tenacity or energy or desire. I'm more on the technical side, but I'm starting to like Fred. And I think it's not just based on recent performances. Even when he wasn't playing well, I noticed some of the things that he was at least doing right on a fundamental level. Whereas with McTominay, you just get so frustrated because you feel like he could be doing so much more, but he's almost like he's in a bubble. He's in a shell. He's not playing like we know he can. Well, those of us who believe in him anyways. But yeah, I thought Fred was great today. Yeah,
I completely agree. Waz, what do you think then? Obviously, with Ranić coming in, a very heavy pressing manager, and Fred thrives on pressing, really, doesn't he? That's his game to a T. So, is it encouraging that he's starting to pick up a bit of form just as Ranić's coming in?
Yeah, with McTominay, when I see the centre backs receive the ball, it was happening at the beginning of the first half, but probably about around the 8th or 9th minute. They were looking for options into midfield, but no one was showing for the ball. McTominay was not showing for the ball, and then the fans get that nervous energy where they start like jeering a little bit, and then it was just starting like a negative energy, and then the centre backs like played into the channels and so on. It's because no one's asking for the ball. Whereas you see against Chelsea, Matic, he knows what angles to pick up. He knows to drop in the back, make it a back three. He knows what positions to pick up. So then you can build up as a team. So McTominay, I was watching him mostly all game, like whatever the TV would allow me in terms of like picture frame. He doesn't show for the ball. He just goes about, and he don't demand it in the correct position so he can turn and spin out and play it forward. And when he does receive the ball, it's either back to the player who give it him or sideways, and it was frustrating me. And then with Fred, of course, we all know he's got limitations on the ball, but we know in a pivot as well, he's far too deep, because in a pivot, he's got to receive it off the back four, and that's when he can be pressed by the opposition. So slowly as the game unfolded and we stepped up as a team, Fred was more past the halfway line, and then you could see him put challenges in. I think he made 5 interceptions today, and I think Ralph Rangnick, one of his not important players, but one of his like key players initially, it may be Fred, because we are short of central midfielders. Pogba's injured. Matic, I think, is injured apparently again. And then we've only got Fred and McTominay, really. So, and then he might utilise Donny van de Beek, but with Fred, he offers like a unique set of attributes that no other player in our team necessarily has. And then he, even though he started off a bit shaky, once the game started flowing, he was practically box to box. He got the assist for the first goal. He won the penalty. So you can see his drive, and it lifts the fans under the lights. You know, you put a challenge in, it lifts the fans, and that's how it works. I think he will be an important player for Ralph Rangnick.
Absolutely. Well, Nat, I'll come to you. Obviously, you mentioned earlier, favourite's always been Ronaldo. He yet again, with 2 goals to get us the win. He's not doing too badly to say he's the problem, according to a few people, is he?
I love Ronaldo. Ronaldo's always been my favourite since I was 12 years old when he joined, and I was 18. I was crying when he left. So for me, he's never been the problem, never will be the problem. We'll always work hard, always score goals, always be in the positions where you need him to be. Yeah, he's not that 18-year-old kid that first joined, but he is absolutely world class, and you can't take that away from him. So, you know, he's won us the game there. And I just want to say, Fred, yeah, he's not, you know, he's got the limitations, but for me, I think these past few games, he's been one, like, I'd have him up there as like constantly like top player, you know, one of our player of the matches constantly, like Villarreal. Chelsea is really good, but then he had that chance that he should have scored. But you're always gonna have those moments. You're always gonna have a moment where Fred's gonna kick De Gea and on the floor. That's Fred, you know. But then you have the moments where he makes the assist, where he's setting up, where he's tackling. And I'm the opposite to Marcus. I do love the tenaciousness. I do love the passion, but I think as well he does it in a way that's actually quality. That's what he's good at. If he just wins the ball and just you got a simple ball on, bang, then you're looking like you're scoring a goal. And you know, if he's going to be Ralph's one of the top men, I'm here for it, definitely.
Yeah, man. I want to say real quick on Fred too. I'll admit, let me say something on Scott too. I'll admit I haven't been the biggest fan of Fred, and it might be because of where he's been having to get played. Like, I can't remember which one of y'all said him getting pressed deep is an issue for him because we know his limitations. But yeah, I'll have to put my hands up and say, like, maybe him saying, or I think it was a little while ago, he said he's more of an 8, more of a box to box rather than just a sitting holding midfielder. And shit, maybe he is, because he had a hell of a game today. That assist, it was a great pass. Even like it got stuck up under his feet, but he still got it to Ronaldo. Was mentioned him making tackles that get the fans going. He had that block right at the end of the game because Tellers was out of position. So yeah, I think it's flipped, because I used to say Scott might have been the better option over Fred, but after what I saw today is the amount of times Scott got Meg today, the amount of times he got beat sitting back there by himself. Maybe it's Fred over Scott at this point.
Yeah, you got to think back to Ollie's first full season in charge, and Fred was incredible that season, wasn't he? You know, I remember big performances at the Etihad, and it really looked like he was going to turn a corner. But there's 100% a player in there. But John, I'll come to you. We'll divulge back onto Ronaldo, because his name's been mentioned recently in that he might not work for Rangnick. But I thought when United did press today, I think Ronaldo, while he wasn't the most active of players, he certainly took part in that. Do you think we've seen that he can fit into a Rangnick team?
Yeah, I hope you can hear me okay. I've just switched to the phone. Tell me if you can't. Yeah, no, I mean, I know Natalie was kind of speaking from the heart to some extent, but I'm with her. I mean, if Natalie's the problem, if Ronaldo's the problem, then I'd like to know what that exactly is, because Ronaldo's done, he's done all that can be expected of him, and he did so tonight. I felt the first 20 minutes tonight, he was a bit too over eager to impress, and I think he could have released Rashford, for example, in the first half, and I think Rashford does get put through there, and Rashford scores. The whole analysis of his game, if you like, does change somewhat, although I do understand and empathise with some of the criticism of his performance tonight. But no, I mean, Ronaldo's doing what he was bought for, what Ronaldo is, and certainly what he has been for the last probably 5 or 6 years. I do remember him at Madrid in his late 20s, where he was pressing a bit more. And in fact, what we saw against Liverpool when he did the whole thing with his hands, he actually did a few times at Madrid, I remember. But when he was at Madrid, he was actually one of the guys who was pressing. I do think it's kind of normal, despite the comments about Cavani, being 33 and still pressing, and Lewandowski to some extent. I do think it is normal as you get older that you do press a bit less. Messi presses less. And in fact, Messi's actually performing not great this season, both domestically and in Europe. So I have no complaints. And I think Ronaldo, you'll see him play 90% of matches. Carrick's reasoning, which is also part of the reason, I guess, that it's a kind of a sad situation with Carrick tonight. Carrick's reasoning regarding Jorginho against Chelsea makes sense. That he wanted people to harry Jorginho in possession. We scored one of our goals partly because of that on Sunday. So there might be the odd game that Ronaldo won't start, but he'll still start 90% of the matches. And I expected him to start tonight. I also clicked on the team news immediately to see if he was starting. I didn't give a flying whatever regarding Maguire or anyone else. I wanted to see if he was starting first and then analyse the rest of the team. And I was super happy to see him start. I felt as though he was a bit eager in the first 20 minutes with, overhead kicks when the ball wasn't even arriving at him, and being a bit greedy. But then he scores 2 goals, and I was super nervous for him for that penalty. I was thinking Bruno should have taken it, but hey, he scored. So what more can you say?
He scored. So what more can you say? Very, very good point. Very good point. But I'll come to you, Marcus. One negative around Ronaldo right now is that he limped off. Obviously, he made a darting 70-yard run, then limped off and ran down the tunnel. So not really sure what to make of it. But if he was, say he was out injured for the Crystal Palace game, do you think we can manage that? Because obviously his backups would be either Martial or Greenwood. Do you think they can realistically fill in for what he offers right now?
Yeah, I think they can. I think they can really. But I think the thing with Ronaldo and the whole conversation about what he brings to the team, I think obviously first and foremost he brings goals, then he brings leadership, and beyond that, I don't really know what else he brings. Yes, he can definitely press. I'm not against this. I'm against this narrative that he doesn't press at all. People act like he's got the IQ of a toddler, like he can press. And if you press as a team, actually, you'll find oftentimes that not everybody's actually that great individually at pressing. But if you do it as a team, then you kind of, make up for each other's weaknesses. So if, for example, Martial or, for example, Rashford and Sancho are pressing next to him, then suddenly the fact that he's 36 years old doesn't really matter as much because we're pressing as a team and you've got Bruno behind him. And, that's a thing. And I think when people think about pressing, they think about pressing alone. I've seen people even say Bruno doesn't know how to press. And it's like, no, the reason why he looks like he's running around like a headless chicken is because we don't press as a team. And the moment people realize this, then we'll be able to better assess who's actually good at pressing. But just on the point about Crystal Palace, if he's unavailable, look, it's Crystal Palace. Respectfully, it's Crystal Palace. I think whether we start Greenwood in there, whether we start Martial in there, I think we should be fine. I think the biggest problem for me is if we don't create more chances, then we'll have a problem, because Ronaldo hasn't had the best of service and he's still been able to create, which is great. But I don't think a Greenwood and a Martial will do that. I think a Greenwood and a Martial need more chances. They need you to keep creating for them to like finally bury that one chance. And I think that's the difference between Ronaldo and everyone else. And maybe you could put Cavani in that category as well, where if they get one chance, they can bury it. They don't need much in a game. And that's my only concern. So we just need to create chances. We need to play on the front foot. We need to have the attacking initiative, and then we'll be fine. Because whether it's Greenwood, whether it's Rashford, whether it's Sancho, whether it's Martial, one of them will score eventually.
Yeah, it's a completely valid point. Well, we'll talk about staying on the front foot. A player who we've not really mentioned yet, and it was quite a big game for him. Whether his performance matched it or not is to be discussed. But I'll come to you, Waz. Obviously, Diogo Dalot deputised at right back today. I think it's his first league start since 2019, so it was a massive game in context for him. Obviously, he has the attacking ability over Wan-Bissaka, which he himself has been criticised for. But what was your impression on his performance today? And do you think it offers some hope that he can still be a part of this team?
I think Dalot did fairly well, to be honest. Obviously, he's not been playing much this season, so he probably lacks a bit of match sharpness, chemistry, been building a relationship with someone on the right-hand side, even the player right-hand side of the pivot, you build like a triangle. So I think he made two interceptions and 3 tackles. I felt he offered width. I think for the second goal United scored, he made a good pass inwards off the touchline, and then it eventually laid off to Ronaldo, and Ronaldo scored. Yeah, so I thought he did fairly well. With Ralf Rangnick, he likes utilising his fullbacks. He likes playing he likes a 4-2-2. So with his fullbacks, he likes them high and wide. So the likes of Telles and Dalot, they might be really interesting. I think Bissaka could struggle under Ralf Rangnick the way he wants to play, because Bissaka, we know in the opposition half, he's not strong on the ball or fluid. So I think with Dalot, it's just more natural. You can play like 1-2s, you can overlap, underlap. So I think Dalot will be a good option for Ralf Rangnick. Also with Ralf, he likes playing his like in 4-2-2. So the two behind the 2 strikers, they're normally narrow. So it could be a Sancho and Fernandes, or Sancho if a Paul Pogba was fit. That sort of player just off the touchline. So yeah, I think Bissaka could struggle. I think Dalot's got an opportunity. I think same with Telles. I know Ralf Rangnick said something about Shaw about a year ago, so he does have his reservations around Shaw. So he'll have that in his mind. So I think the fullbacks will have to step up. I think Oli didn't give much chances to Telles and Dalot, so I think they'll get more chances under Ralf Rangnick, to be honest.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I'll bring this comment up from Jarvis. It brings me on to my next point. Nat, obviously, we've spoken about Dalot, but Telles is having a little run of games at the minute because of Shaw's unavailability. So I'll ask you, 1, how do you think he played today? And 2, is he going to be competition for when Shaw's fit? Do you think Shaw automatically comes straight back into this lineup? Because personally, I think he's going to have to fight for it.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. 2 players for every position. That's why he was bought in the first place. Tellers to put that pressure on Shaw. Shaw had a great last season. He had a great season. Earned his spot, came in, started. But I think the last few games as well, Tellers has been really good. I'm sometimes a bit concerned about his defending, but I think the balls that he can put in are just absolutely different class. It's like something different, like what we needed. The corners. It's great. It's great to see. Obviously, his goal versus Villarreal, he's got a shot on him. So yeah, and like what Waz says, Waz knows more tactically than me. But if that's how he likes to play, then I'm sure Ralph will be playing with him. To me, I think everyone. No one's guaranteed now, your name or what you've done before. It's I'm coming in, I'm going to see how you do, and this is how I want to play. You adapt to me, not the other way around, kind of thing.
Certainly. You mentioned you brought up an idea there as well that I wanted to ask Hammer about. So, obviously, with Carrick going now as well, and Rangnick coming in, bringing a few coaching staff with him as well. Obviously, getting off on a good foot with this win. Is this now a completely clean slate for all players, do you think? Obviously everyone's going to get the chance to impress, but, is it wise just completely wiping the slate clean? Because it clearly wasn't working before Rangnick, was it?
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a complete clean slate. I've seen some people on Twitter and different places talking about like now we're not going to see at times when we were looking at Ole seeing that he likes to play certain favorites even when they're out of form and things like that. I think with Ralph, if you're not performing, if you're not adapting, if you're not doing what he needs to see to get the team the win that we need or the results that we need, he's going to pull you, and he's not going to hesitate. So yeah, I think it's a clean slate, and I think it's a good thing. You know, like Nat said, it's good to have that competition. Good to know that, oh yeah, I'm not guaranteed every week, right? It might change on the opponent, might change on this. If my form drops, the manager's going to pull me. You should be on your toes every week, and I think with Ralph, he's going to make sure everybody's on their toes from whoever is first on that list to whoever's last on that list. Everybody's going to be on their toes.
Absolutely. Well, on that sort of line of thought then, Marcus, I'll come to you. Obviously, we've spoken about McTominay's performances of late, and it did feel like he was a bit of a favourite within the club, and it sometimes felt like that's why he was getting selected. But do you think the fact that Rangnick, he's not going to come in and have favourites, and I think he's mature enough to not pick based on personal preference, do you think this could be, like McTominay's undoubtedly has to up his game, but do you think this could be really like a bad time for McTominay?
Sorry, I'm having internet issues. I really apologize.
That's all right.
But yeah, I think for McTominay, I don't really know what's going to happen with Scott McTominay. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with McTominay because I think Fred suits the Rangnick system a lot more than McTominay does, simply because he's able to get around the pitch a lot quicker. Even though he's not great when people are pressing him in tight areas, he's still agile. He's way more agile than McTominay is. McTominay's quite lanky. He's got very long legs, so he doesn't really turn that quickly. And I think that's going to be a problem for him because with Rangnick, one thing I've noticed listening to his videos, watching even when he was there with Leipzig, is he likes intensity more than anything. Intensity is the most important thing for him. He wants you to show intent. And I think McTominay, first of all, is going to have to improve his decision-making. He's going to have to make a lot more forward passes. But even defensively, he's going to have to do a lot more in terms of interceptions, in terms of counter-pressing. When we lose the ball quickly, he's going to need to be quick at picking up the runner and figuring out where he needs to be. And I don't know if he's going to quite fit the system. And also, in addition to that, I think Fred and Donny could be the pivot of choice for Rangnick. You know, I'm obviously just speculating. I don't know Rangnick, so I don't know who he's going to pick, but that's who I think he'll go with because it makes a lot of sense. I think he'll want a combination of somebody who can progress the ball up the field well, but also have somebody next to them who can handle the defensive responsibilities. And since we don't have a dominant central defensive midfielder, it's going to have to be either Fred or McTominay and then someone like a Donny next to him. That's what I think he'll go with. So I don't know. McTominay's days could be numbered, but I did see an interesting tweet the other day. I forgot who tweeted it, but somebody said something to the effect of, 3 managers at Old Trafford, if you count Carrick now, have rated McTominay. So, you know, clearly there's something there, you know, and even Ben Foster on a podcast said that McTominay was one of the hardest players to play against when Watford played them. So there clearly is something that McTominay is doing right. There clearly is something that top managers really like about him. But I just don't know what it is. And I don't know if he'll quite fit the system in Rangnick. So I'm really interested to see if McFred truly is dead or if we will see a resurrection of them under Rangnick.
Yeah. Obviously, you could look at it the other way, couldn't you? That Rangnick could finally produce the system that gets the best out of McTominay. Obviously, the manager's saying he's a good player. They just obviously aren't getting the best out of him. But it could go either way. But John, we'll look forward then. I'll finish up with you and Waz, and then we'll get out of here. It's getting pretty late. But I don't mean to jump the gun here at all. But United are 7th in the league. They're 3 points off top 4 with a new manager coming in and a very favourable run of games as well. So, you know, realistically, what now is the minimum expectation for Rangnick? Because it was a couple of weeks ago, it was looking like top 4 itself would be very hard. So, John, what are your thoughts on where this squad should be at the end of the season now?
I mean, you kind of mentioned it really in the in that question. Really, I think top 4 is really the mark of whether the Rangnick 6-month experiment, at the very least anyway, was a successful or not, because he's being handed the keys with us on the verge of the top 4 with a squad that many of us thought was capable of challenging for the league at the outset. So that's it really. Top 4 is is whether it will decide whether his 6 months in charge was a success or not. Now, of course, you can add to that with a great run in the Champions League, or perhaps a great run in the FA Cup. But I mean, the benchmark is simple as that. If we finish 5th, a point off the top 4, then his 6 months was a failure, unless we win the Champions League. So it's fairly black and white, as far as I'm concerned. Some generic points that have been touched upon and I'd like to elaborate on as well. I think the fullback issue is fascinating. I think we've got 4 fullbacks, all of which have huge question marks over them. Perhaps the first teamers, in a way, have more question marks just because of the fact that they've played more often in the last 18 months or so. Wan-Bissaka drives me crazy in the fact that he looks like a rabbit in headlights every time he crosses the halfway line, which is not a modern fullback, not by any stretch of the imagination. So if anything, he's of the 4 that bothers me the most. But actually, then you could also talk about the coaching, because that's partly also the coach's job. And then that brings me to this midfield too, if you like, of if McTominay's not a person for Rangnick, and I completely agree with all the points that have been made before, all the issues that were made by Marcus in particular, Matic isn't going to resolve any of those. You know, getting around the pitch, being fleet of foot and being quick. If anything, McTominay's a step up. And the other thing that Marcus highlighted, which I think is also a good point, is that the other thing that the McTominay needs to do is the forward pass. I remember Guardiola going crazy at Vidal, just crazy, just because he played a sideways pass. And I remember this YouTube clip of him 3 or 4 years ago when he was still at Bayern, of just him doing his absolute nut at Vidal. And it was innocuous to the rest of us. I think Bayern were probably winning 4 or 5-0 as they did do most of those matches, but he was going crazy at him. And the reason being, and we saw some clips of McTominay at the weekend where there was an obvious forward pass and he didn't make it. And I see that being something, but that's also Rangnick's job as a coach, to highlight that, to coach it and to keep and to drill it into the players, and perhaps also players like Wan-Bissaka and others at fullback. I wasn't quite so enthusiastic by Tellers tonight. I think it's just because we've seen absolute horrible defending from Luke Shaw that maybe made Tellers look okay tonight. But I want more from the fullbacks, and I want more from the sitting midfielders, so to speak.
Fair enough. Well, was to round us off then, you know, do you have anything to add on what John said? Because I thought he made a couple of really good points in there.
Yeah, I agree regarding the central midfielders. I think that Natalie touched on it. They are both number 8s. We've seen with McTominay against the likes of Leeds, where he gets to advance in the opposition box. He arrives late. He has a good shot on him. He can get around the pitch to an extent. He's not a sitting midfielder. The only sitting midfielder at United is Matic. This is why every single Manchester United fan in the summer said we need a holding midfielder. Not addressing that position was a clear error, was a clear mistake. Because then to cover for that, we play 2 number 8s in the number 6 positions, and is exposing both McTominay and is exposing Fred. I think Marcus touched on Donny and Fred. I do agree with that to an extent. However, both of them like to press the opposition. They're not really going to hold their position, and when they both press, it does vacate space. It's happened in I think we played Watford in the FA Cup like a year ago, or we played Istanbul at home. They both vacate space in midfield. So I think a holding midfielder is important. It's not necessarily a holding midfielder that's just going to sit there. It's like a mobile holding midfielder that he understands he understands when to sit. He understands when to go. With Fred, he doesn't know when to sit and when to go. He just goes. With Donny, he naturally wants to go forward. His tendency is to play maybe 1 to the right winger and advance. So I think that area of the field, they might even look at it in January. I think we were linked with Haidara. I'm not seeing much of him, to be honest. But I think if we could get a good deal there, that'd be positive. I know with Leipzig, they've got like Lima and these sort of players. I think Ralf Rangnick might just go for the player that he's trusted and worked with before. So yeah, I agree also with John regarding top 4. We've got to make top 4. He's not arriving. It's not March or April and we're like 8th in the league. It's December. We've got a favourable run. We've got January transfer window. He might get maybe 30 million to look for a gem in midfield, and then he's got favourable fixtures, as James said, and then he's got a nice little run in So I think as well he'll do well in a cup competition. I think if we could get a favourable draw early on in the Champions League, I think once we warm up, once we learn the Rangnick way and we start building momentum, I think if we start playing a good team towards the end of his tenure, we'll be more in the system, more like functional, and I feel we've got a better chance of beating a bigger team at Old Trafford later on in his tenure instead of instantly. I think people think we're going to see an overnight change. I think we'll see principles of a change, but I don't think we'll see like an overnight change, because if you play the intensity of Ralph Rangnick, we're seeing with Jurgen Klopp how much injuries they get, and we know in the Christmas period you're playing like Boxing Day, playing New Year's Day, the fixtures just turn on. So it is going to be difficult. You don't get much time on the training field as well. But yeah, I agree with John point. He's got to make top four. I think that's undoubted. And yeah, I think obviously we all wanted Ollie to do well. My turning point was Leicester away this season. I was only Ollie out Leicester away this season. I felt he deserved the summer of last window. Because I feel a manager should be allowed to complete his team. He completed his team because he got his Varane, he got his Sancho, and then unfortunately it imploded. Even us as fans, we didn't even understand what went wrong. How did it implode so badly? It didn't just go from 80% to 70 or 65. It went 80% to 40%, and it didn't make sense. We wasn't even this far open last season. Okay, we conceded first, but we weren't this far open, so it was strange. So unfortunately, with Ollie, it didn't work out, but he still deserves respect as a human being. Still should respect him as a human being. Michael Carrick, as I said, I felt he had his opportunities. I thought as himself, he could have maybe asked the board or asked Ed Woodward or someone in the club that can he work with the reserves, and then he can look at Ralph Rangnick coach and maybe just dip in and out from reserve to first team just as a backstander. I hope he does really well. Carrick was amazing football for Manchester United. It's sad seeing Ollie not doing well and Carrick leaving, but we need to protect the football club. We need to protect the standards. I'm thinking there was a standards ban in Stretford End. We've got to maintain the standards. Unfortunately, a big club like Liverpool, they've had Dalglish, they've had Souness in charge. They got rid of him. That's just football, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's the nature of the game, isn't it? There's no room for sentiment anymore, especially with football clubs being run as a business like they are. But as you mentioned, things are looking up, without doubt. Rangnick will hopefully make a difference, and I think top four is an achievable and realistic target, and I think we shouldn't really be expecting anything more given the quality of everyone else in the league. But yeah, listen, we'll try and end it on a positive. As we said, it's looking up massively for the rest of the season, especially if we can build on this performance. But I'll end it there. So thank you very much to you five for joining me. Hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I have. Same goes to the people in the comments. Really appreciate you joining in our conversation and giving us your thoughts. Continue to do so. Keep the conversation going. Like and subscribe as well while you're there. But until next time, we'll see you later.